So you've watched all these videos and you're feeling empowered for improvement, but you're thinking, what now? So I'm going to give you a few tips just to kind of say, like, here's some things that you can do before you maybe are able to make that call. If you're like, I want to go to action today, I want to do something for myself. These are going to be some things that you can put into action very, very easily. So one of the things I'm going to tell you is that if you're tracking the food that you're eating, if you're counting your calories every day, delete any apps that you have. MyFitnessPal or whatever it is that you're rocking with, like, get rid of it, delete that. Take away the ability for you to track that or have the reminder like, hey, you haven't put this thing into this tracker to count your calories and tell you like what's okay and what's not okay and how much you have left to eat. Get rid of that completely. Delete that app, okay? The other thing I'm going to say is if you're obsessively weighing yourself, get rid of your scale. Don't have it around. Don't keep it there for you to use. Don't even tempt yourself with having it. So I always tell people throw away the scale, but maybe that feels a little bit aggressive. And so you don't have to do that. So maybe just give it to someone, remove it from your house. If it's at work, take it out of your office. Just remove the ability for you to engage in that obsessive behavior. Again, if you come back to those behaviors, it's fine. These are just things that you're trying to do to kind of take that step. If you're someone who kind of sits a little bit more in that orthorexia category where you're like really focused on this healthy lifestyle and just kind of like fitting into that box of like what it needs to be, my suggestion would be to probably stop meal prepping. And so that may seem like a silly thing because for a lot of people, meal prepping just allows their lives to be easier, but it does kind of put you in a box about what you can eat and when you can eat that. So if those kinds of rules are feeling overwhelming to you, just don't. Like buy those things, shop every day if you need to pick up exactly what you're wanting that day to eat and not forcing yourself to eat those healthy options or those like pre-planned meals for yourselves. The other thing, and this is so hard for people to do, is get rid of clothes that don't fit. And that means clothes that are too big or too small. So clothes that are so big that you're kind of like just like drowning in them basically, and they're just there to hide every part of your body. You probably want to get rid of those because we're moving towards trying to make you feel better. And those clothes that are like, when I lose weight, I'll be able to wear that again, or when my body changes and I can fit that again, this is my motivation. Just get rid of those things. Like your body doesn't need to change for you to be able to have clothes that you like. You can just buy clothes that fit your body as they are, and you can always buy new clothes. And so get rid of those clothes, donate them, give them to another family member. Just do something, just remove that temptation for that comparison to who you were before and to who you are now. And those are some very simple steps that I tell people, like, this is immediate stuff that you can do. And so all of these actions are like, you could still like go back to those things if they feel comfortable to you. But like I said, if you're feeling like you're really empowered for improvement right now in this moment, those are some very easy things for you to do that don't require you having to make that phone call to a clinician yet at this point for that. The other thing that I would say is think about what your support system looks like and really start to build that around yourself. And so maybe that's talking to the clinician that you're working with. Maybe that's finding a new clinician that maybe fits the ideals that you're wanting a little bit more. Separating yourself from family members or friends that have negative ideals about your body and about the things that you eat, or maybe even themselves struggle with these kinds of things and obsess and can be triggering or overwhelming to you. You really want to create a positive group around you that can just be neutral about all of these things. Like there's no emotion around them. It just kind of is what it is. And I'm here to allow you to feel better and support you through this process that you need. One of the other things that I know is really hard for people is advocating for yourself. And so we talked a little bit about this in social situations, but really feeling empowered to advocate for yourself to others. And so whether that be like at work, at home, with your spouse, with your friends, or even with your doctors. I know we talked a little bit about that, saying what you need, saying how you feel, and putting those boundaries in place. So, one of the things that I tell a lot of people, and then they're like, what is that? You don't have to be weighed at a doctor's office. And so, if you walk into a doctor's office and they ask you to step on that scale and you know that it's not working for you, you can tell them, like, I actually prefer not to be weighed. If they kind of fight you on that, then you can say, okay, well, I prefer not to see my weight and I don't want to discuss it at all. And so those things generally don't have anything to do with the treatment that you're receiving. And so you have that right. And so a lot of times people have been like, yeah, they just let me like not be weighed. And they're just surprised by that because we just accept the idea that we have to walk into, our ear, nose, and throat doctor and like pop on a scale. Like you just don't have to do that. And so that is one way to definitely be advocating for yourself and just set that boundary. Like, I'm here for this reason. Like, we don't need to discuss my weight. I would prefer if we didn't discuss my weight. And those kinds of things. Like, I'm working with that on a doctor outside of this office. I really just want to focus on why I'm here today. And so that is a way that you can do that with your doctors. If you're someone who has had one of those bariatric or weight loss surgeries, you can also start advocating in that way. Be very honest about how your body is feeling or the behaviors that you have been engaging in since you've had that surgery. So maybe your acid reflux has gotten really bad, or your sleep has been significantly impacted, or things of that nature. Just be honest about that. Like, hey, these are things that are happening since I've had this surgery. Is there a way that we can move through that? Because it's starting to make me anxious and creating this behavior for me. And so being able to do that. And I encourage people to, like, when you're doing these things for the first time at the doctor, like, bring someone that you feel comfortable with to have your back, that's there to kind of anchor you if you're able to do that, and just kind of say, like, this is my plan. Like, I just want you to be there for moral support. Like, can you have my back? And just bring them with you. And so again, with your family and friends, like, can we please not talk about this? Like, these words are triggering for me. This just isn't fun for me. And allow yourself to take space in those places. In the workplace, this is the thing that's a little bit harder for people, right? Because like, you go to work, you got to be there. And it's really easy, especially around like meal times, for people to just be like, yeah, I'm on this diet, or like, yeah, like, I got to work out tonight so I can like eat my birthday cake, or like whatever. Try to distance yourself from those people in those conversations, right? It's work. You don't want to be rude. You don't want to like, you lose your job or like have somebody say something to you, but you can just kind of say like, hey, like, change the subject, right? Like, hey, did you guys see that TV show last night, or like whatever, just kind of start veering those conversations away from the body image, those like that negative self-talk, or talking about food. You can just really start to kind of guide those conversations to, again, be advocating for yourself in a way that feels really, really good. And so those are some of those pieces with that. Again, if this feels like a lot, you don't have to do it. I know, like, self-advocating is a hard thing for people to do. And it feels like a big task, especially with what we would perceive as authority figures. So like parents, or doctors, or things of that nature. So just be aware of your comfort level. Like, if just even thinking about that is creating a lot of anxiety, just don't. These are not like hard, fast rules for how you get better. Like, you don't have to do that. And so the last piece is, I really want to encourage you to think about your self-talk. And so really changing that negative self-talk, really changing, that negative mindset over into something positive, or even just neutral, to just kind of move out of that space of negativity. And so one of the things that I always tell people is, talk to yourself like you would talk to someone that you really love. So talk to yourself like you would talk to your kid, or talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend, right? If your kid came up to you and said, I feel really fat today, you wouldn't be like, yeah, you fat piece of crap, like, you're horrible, like, don't eat that, right? You might be like, wow, like, no, like, you're great, like, like, fat isn't a feeling, and like, let's talk about what's going on, right? Give yourself that level of grace and that level of care. So like, kind of try to wrap yourself up like you would with a friend. Sometimes it requires like some weird things like talking in third person to being like, yeah, Brittany, like it's okay to feel that way and it's okay to do those things. Like you're human, like we all have bad days, like stuff happens. And so sometimes it's just about being like, yeah, like you feel that way. And like that feeling's okay too. It doesn't have to be like a negativity fest of just like, just beating yourself up about all of these things. And so, positivity is ideal, but neutrality is just as good. So stepping from the negative space to just like a neutral space of being, and then trying to get into just like a very positive space. And so that can look like a lot of things, just kind of being aware of your self talk, talking to yourself like you would a loved one, or even trying to get some affirmations in there day to day, just to like help you move forward and allow you to find a trajectory into a space that feels a little bit more comfortable, because that voice in our head can feel like it is on like a megaphone sometimes, and it's just so loud and beating us down. And so really think about that negative self-talk or that self-hate that you're having, and really start challenging that as much as you can, or even once or twice over the course of time. Like, what does it feel like to just challenge those thoughts every now and then? If you take all of these or any of these and try to implement them right now, I think you'll really start to see that that process to just start it is super easy. You can just take these really small steps and it'll get you right in the direction that you need to, while you're trying to figure out exactly what you want for your journey for recovery.